Hello, and welcome to Split Your Head. I'm your host, Bob, and today's special guest is enigmatic filmmaker Terry Chiu, whose most recent epic feature, Open Doom Crescendo, royally split my head right in half when I watched it a few days ago. This is a 3 hour exercise of pure unbridled manic creativity. A tornado let loose with a video camera, mashing and finessing its philosophical ideas and absurd spectacles at the same time, ensuring that by the end of the 3 hours, you're out of breath and your mind is full. So clearly, I needed to talk to this young filmmaker, a Montreal resident, and innovative voice for experimental genre cinema. So, Terry, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to talk to you because that movie, as I said, it split my brain in half. I don't even know how to describe like what it is, and I'm just wondering, like, how's the response been so far from everyone that's seen it? Has it been that same level of like befuddlement and awe?
Hey Bob, thanks for having me. This is great, and I'm really happy to be talking to you about this. And the general reaction, the average median reaction would be befuddlement from two extremes. So either you have the people who just were feel maybe I think personally offended that I would demand 2 hours and 55 minutes with the intermission of their time,
Yeah,
and who
yeah.
have like left before the movie was done and then feel the need for the internet to know their uninformed opinion. So there's like
uh
particularly it'd be like yeah, one fucker named Louis Philippe who would go on both Letterboxd and IMDb and give the lowest rating possible. I'm pretty sure he went on IMDb as well, but yeah, you got you got fuckers like him, and then you got
man.
and then you got like 17-year-olds named Johan who tell me that their life is changed profoundly and in a good way. And I take for granted how I guess people who are still developing will uh,
Hmm.
and kind of our consuming culture will be affected by or can be affected by someone who's considerably older. In this case, I who's tried to take their his jaded experiences and channel that through something constructive and hopefully meaningful. And
Hmm.
so it's rare that I don't think I really get or perceive reactions that are there anywhere in the middle. If I do, I don't know where those folks are, but it's a general yeah. It's a I'll take befuddlement over apathy because I mean to be honest, I probably would be befuddled if I didn't make the film. So it's very I'm grateful that people even kind of get through it and find some kind of sense in it because it is a lot. I know it's a lot, and
Hmm.
I think it's a leap of faith that even I take to put it out there and hope that it makes sense even beyond my own attempt to make sense of it through the process of creating it.
Yeah, yeah. So with something like Open Doom Crescendo, it's 3 hours, it's so dense. Like when did you start working on this film? Because it came out originally like 2022, right?
Yeah, the very tail end of 2022, I
Okay.
first had the inception of it in my head, not a reference, but like an actual
Right.
kind
Oh
of the first
yeah.
thing came into my head
Yeah.
in the fall of 2015 when
Okay.
I despised the first feature that I was in post production for, Mango Shake, and I needed to bribe myself to finish that. So the inspiration organically came out for Open Doom Crescendo, and I held that idea and eventual film hostage by needing to finish Mango Shake because I usually don't let myself do new things unless I finish the thing
That's
beforehand.
that's a good
If
idea. Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, that so the process started in 2015, percolating and fermenting, and then the writing really kind of went full speed ahead in 2017. I then went through my quarter life crisis, and yeah, of course, as one would, and then went
Yeah.
and took got help, got addressed the things in my life that I needed to address before I can proceed into what would be like the person you would become for the rest of your life after a certain point in your adult life, right?
Mm.
And I then kind of came back after I had figured myself out, made the script twice as long, and then started filming it in 2019, and then that took a couple years to do, and eventually, yeah. Actually, no, yeah, the production actually was completed by the end of 2022,
Okay.
and it had its first screening at the very tail end. But then 2023 was when I went on this DIY bank breaking, wild forfeiting tour of the film in these different art communities and alternative film circuits that would be interested in something that of this kind of aesthetic, but that
Yeah, yeah.
was so unique within those spheres because I don't think people are at least even I'm not accustomed to seeing a film that is made on this scale of that production value and aesthetic. But that's part of what's been gratifying about the experiment of will people want
Yeah.
to see it's like something of this scale to the disproportion of like what would not usually get people's
Right.
attention, right? Beyond like a certain kind of length, right? I was actually listening to your first episode. I
Oh,
like
okay.
my butt clenched at like key parts, like the
Uh,
idea that when you were saying how like a film shouldn't have to be more than 2 hours, and that it's like it's good to have like a
oh, I
least
see.
hour 10 minutes, which I fully respect. I was just holding, and I was just going like, oh damn, like he's like, I'm trying to see like what he saw in like this 2 hours and 55 minutes, and yeah, the so I'm very grateful that you finished it and that you wrote such kind, profound words, and it's
Yeah.
also a relief that you give mostly of your good reviews 4 stars, so that like I'm not under the average of something, like
Right,
I'm on
right.
par with yeah.
No, no, I generally don't watch a lot of 3 hour stuff, but I do think that on occasion, a very long film justifies its length by kind of how do I put this? Like giving you such a capital E experience that you feel like you have grown with it. It hasn't been just, 90 minutes of you taking in a narrative, but the fact that you've spent so much time with it. And it did actually make me think of one of my favorite movies of last year, which was Beau is Afraid.
I
And
haven't seen it, but I've heard very yeah, strong things
oh,
about
it's well, because it in a lot of ways it does seem designed to be like a grueling test, like an endurance test. And I think that I don't think that your film was necessarily designed to be grueling in any sense, but it was designed to utilize that full 3 hours and to feel almost like you're going through like a waterfall. Like it was so cathartic to like get through that entirety of it.
it.
Um, but you were saying about the aesthetic of your film and how people aren't accustomed to see it at that length. And it just like I mentioned this in my review, and I'm just wondering, like, are you a fan at all of Ryan Tricarton?
I don't know Ryan Shekhart and
Interesting.
yeah like
Okay.
yeah here's a joke I was gonna make after yeah, listening from what I've listened to your podcast was I was gonna come in and say just as a disclaimer I will know every single reference that you are going to make
No,
which is the
no,
opposite because I don't know
yeah,
any
yeah.
I don't know
No, that's
anything.
uh that's really exciting though, because like your film is so over the top and singular that it's like if you actually know 100% all these references and everything that's going into it, everything that's going on, there's sort of a magic loss there. Like I kind of like the idea of you just saying like I'm gonna go out on a whim. I don't actually know what this end product is gonna be. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if you were like, yeah, I'm well versed in Ryan Tricart and I've seen all of his films, then to me that's almost like less exciting than you being like, I have no idea who he is. Where to me it's like he would be the clearest reference in my mind, like clearest comparison in terms of like the dialogue, the acting, the absurdity, like a lot of that pulls from what he was doing as well. I'm not sure if he's still active, but like you have to seek him out now. You
Okay, yeah,
have
and
to.
yeah, that I really appreciate, yeah, I definitely, if I was talking to someone, if the roles were reversed, I would appreciate that more than like someone going like I'm gonna, it's like I was like I'm gonna do the Joe Swanberg thing, but
Right.
I'm gonna know like, I'm doing Joe Swanberg, but I'm not actually doing Joe Swanberg. It's like I've
Yeah.
never seen Joe Swanberg, but I've heard that name like thrown so many times, like in kind of like the film buff kind of like
Yeah.
lingo. It's just like a random example. Like respect to Joe Swanberg. I don't know him,
Oh
but
no, he comes up a lot in
yeah.
interviews that I've done recently, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he
Okay.
seems to be the like if you're doing indie dramas,
Hmm.
he's up there. He's someone you should aspire to have your film play in his video shop or whatever it is in
Okay.
Chicago or yeah. But okay,
Yeah.
then let's get
Yeah.
into what are your influences? Like what made you want to be a filmmaker? Like what are you emulating, Like is it Wizard of Oz? Is it like The Matrix? Is it therapy time reading the posters up your walls? But
Yeah.
yeah, tell me.
Well, clearly, I mean, I finished Open Doom before, like after, well, I mean, before seeing Therapy Docs,
Yeah,
but Therapy Docs is very much an inspiration going forward in terms of just my hope as an absorber of art.
sure.
And so like that, but then if we were going to go backwards, then yeah, clearly you got The Matrix and our savior Keanu Reeves, and then there's films like yeah, like I've said this before, and it's probably gonna become like a running kind of joke, like but not joke that I'm a simple guy. Like I grew up on pop culture, and that was really my kind
Okay,
of pop culture genre is my main upbringing. So Spider-Man, the 2002 Spider-Man, the yeah, The Matrix. You got films like even just like horror films like the Insidious and Conjuring films
I
by James Wan.
see. Yeah, I
Like,
see Insidious
all
2
right,
there.
yeah,
So
Insidious 2 is my favorite
yeah.
film actually. And like I'm on like a crusade for people to appreciate Insidious 2 because I feel like it's a crime that it is so overlooked
Ah,
and
okay.
the appreciation that it deserves, especially in kind of relative to its predecessor, Insidious, and even
Okay.
Insidious 5, which people have received very warmly, still
Mhm.
owes like a lot to like fun. Like there's a straight line from Insidious 2 to Insidious 5 in terms of like what it owes to that film. Uh,
Insidious 5, eh? Okay. I
yeah,
didn't even
yeah,
know they had that many.
yeah. Well, that came out recently,
Okay.
and I mean, like 3 and 4 are prequels, and then 5 is like a sequel to the second, which is well, like the directors keep changing after Insidious 1 and 2. So like really for me, like the quintessential ones are the first two,
Yeah.
and so yeah, the aesthetics are really kind of like almost random in terms of what inspire me, but I'm
Right,
a
right.
lot more. I owe a lot more to music as the art form that uh, has had like the most kind of inspiration in terms of aesthetics or storytelling or
Really?
tone. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Like I have an affinity for the kind of alternative lo-fi metal stylisms and kind of emotions of bands like Have a Nice Life and Linkin Park and
Okay.
then shoegaze metal bands ranging from like the 90s to the more kind of contemporary ones. And
Okay. Huh.
yeah, so it's this weird thing where it's maybe it's a combination of what happens when you grow up loving superhero and comic books and kind of sci-fi fantasy genre films combined with the enabling the school of like self-enabling that is lo-fi DIY music,
Okay.
because DIY music is something that's way more immediately accessible in terms
Sure.
of your ability to self-actualize the thing you want to do. Because you can just
Mm.
like in your bedroom, right? And you can like do it on your own and find a way to. And music has a much more accessible time to make an impact rather than a film that is made
Mm-hmm.
on parallel, no budget, right? Because
Yeah.
you're contending with things like how does it look, how are people going to receive it's lo-fi music can get away with having a lo-fi sound while film can't
Mm-hmm.
get away with that same kind of thing. It also has to contend with like actors and production
Right.
value and all that stuff. So my philosophy is what happens when you take that ethos of lo-fi DIY music, but try to channel that into the equivalent of a filmic process
Mm.
while still showing up for the the parameters that film require. Like you need a certain amount
Okay.
of people, a certain amount of production value, right? And a certain amount of kind of like you can't actually film with a toaster. Like you gotta film with like
Right, right.
even like
Yeah.
even if like a Canon
Yeah.
a consumer camera, right? But what is the lo-fi bedroom music equivalent of making a film, right? And so
Right.
that's the thing I try to explore. But then what happens if you aim for that same kind of impact that a lo-fi song can still achieve, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you have like, why is it that uh like an album like Death Consciousness by Have a Nice Life can still sound like the biggest thing you've ever heard when it's like
Mm-hmm.
two guys and like one laptop and like one guitar, right? One keyboard. And
Yeah.
then but it's still sad, but because there's a language in that art form, it can still sound like the grandest thing you've ever heard. So what happens when you take that and then try to apply that in DIY, no-fi, lo-fi filmmaking?
Yeah.
And so that's the
I
kind of thing that I try to explore.
I feel like I totally see that. I can see that from watching the film. I still feel like there's, five other things that you're not touching on though, because the film to me seemed way more meta and way more I mean, I keep using the word manic, but like just very like to me, watching it, I pictured you taking every little element as you're going through, like, okay, here's the scene that's 10 seconds long. Oh, there's this thing over here. I'm going to make this do that. Oh no, I think they're going to do something different here. And it's going to feel like a different film for 4 seconds than the next 10. You know what I mean? Like it feels so
Yeah, yeah,
micro in that
yeah.
sense. Like I feel like you must have spent so long in post-production just like noodling away, and maybe that to you seems connected to the whole lo-fi music thing, but I feel like there's something deeper, like you're not telling us, and I want to pull it out of
I
you.
if I'm not telling you, it's because I can't pinpoint it.
No,
Because
I like
I
that. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like this is probably. I hope this doesn't become like just the worst interview because I'm just like it sounds like I'm just not cooperating or I'm not giving you
No, no,
like what you need. But
I want
um,
you to be genuine. And
mm,
as I said earlier, to me, it's more exciting that you actually don't know how you stumbled on this
mm,
style because it is super idiosyncratic. Like it is
mm,
just super nuanced and like bursting with creativity. Like this film is fucked. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's crazy. And just the fact that you're like, Yeah, I like shoegaze and I like lo-fi metal. Like, yeah, I was just thinking, like, what can I make a lo-fi film? I'm like, dude, like people are making lo-fi films and they're not nearly as maniacal as this. Like,
But that means the world to me, Bob. And to so 2 points to that, because yeah, you are helping me kind of like articulate this. The
cool.
So one thing that I loved hearing Peter Koplowski
Oh
tell
yeah, yeah,
me, yeah, you know Peter Koplowski,
yeah.
Midnight Madness at TIFF. He said that like one of the things that he likes about me for some reason, like I say I add this for some reason, but he says that the like he actually says that like, I make idiosyncratic, and this is him talking about me in front of me to like other people in at a gathering, that I can make like these like idiosyncratic kind of just unique whatever kind of films, right?
Yeah,
But then like when it comes to my taste, it's like I like comic book films and Zack Snyder. It's just like all these like really kind of, it's like
really.
it make no sense, right? It's like it makes no sense to like anyone else in terms of like how is this like it almost sounds like I'm trolling when I say these are my inspirations, but like honestly the like the operatic imagery, and that's like, and the kind of these really kind of larger than life or way more dramatic than they actually are kind of like compositions and all that, like that I owe that to kind of like the modern day like mythologies that permeate our pop culture.
Hmm.
And what you're saying about like people are making lo-fi movies and that they don't look like this, that is where I'm coming from, in the sense that
Hmm.
like the war I'm waging, that it feels like no one cares about. Like, well, I mean, you're
Hmm.
disproving it, right? But like at until more recently, it's felt like I've just been fighting this one dude war on like to die on like a one dude hill that no one has even like that even knows about, because you either have your big blockbuster budget and then you can go and make Transformer 6, or you have your like no budget and then you're expected to make your little like indie darling and stay in your lane and make your little intimate kind of film that has
Hmm.
like no stakes, which is fine in of itself, right? But my problem is that fundamental segregation and just like where
Yeah.
they're in the middle, right? And it's like you're and it's one thing to want to do it, you're to just like already want to make a film of that kind, but it's a whole other when you're pre-banished to that place, and then you're just convincing yourself that okay, yeah, I'll succeed by making like my little like transgressive punk film that is just all the same, right? As like every other kind of like, oh yeah, it's like again, it's like the whole like this is gonna be super radical, and like
Yeah.
and like and like and envelope pushing, but then it's like it's just
Well, okay, then.
jacking off or something, but
Well, okay. Answer me this then. If you did have like an unlimited budget and a huge production crew and everything, would Open Doom Crescendo then would it have been a completely different film in terms of like all the creative ideas you put into it? Or would you just say, well, now I'm making a film that everyone can see and will be immediately accepted, that I don't necessarily need to make something that's like screaming with so much creativity and angst? Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah, I don't think I would have made it honestly, because I made it as the logical extreme, and I usually say a logical extreme at like in the term of like it's a negative term, but in this case
Oh.
it's like the pot. No, like I mean like when a lot it's because usually when I talk when I've heard the term logical extreme, it's like it's negative connotation, because when it's in discussion of like when something is taken like way too far, like
Mm,
it's but in this sense, if I were to put it in the positive sense, then it is like the logical end game for
sure.
editing purposes. For editing purposes, this is like it would be the logical end game of this
Yeah.
aesthetic of having no backing, no support, and then going and making a thing anyway,
Hmm.
but then not making a thing that is easy, right? Like you still, I don't want to make a 5 minute, like 10 minute short. I don't want to make a black magic breakup movie, right? Where you just take all your resources and just make another shitty student kind of film that no one outside of your entourage will actually care about.
Yeah.
And so even though I despised my first feature film, it still is a it's its existence is one that goes against like the idea that if you don't get that backing, then you can't do it, right? Or you gotta wait forever to do it. Maybe one day you'll make like a 15-minute version of it with a nice camera. And
Hmm.
so I was already on that journey of making things from a DIY standpoint with no kind of institutional support, and trying to make things that can still stand in a way that is worthy up against this larger industry, or
Mm.
that will like not never even give it, like the time of day. And
Yeah.
so making Open Doom Crescendo was an end game to that aesthetic of a life of no backing, of no institutional support, and still wanting to say something that exists within an industry that, for better or worse, is like has created entertainment or created art that has inspired me as an absorber of art, right?
Mm.
So it's this kind of thing where I want to be able to make my response to Spider-Man, right?
Okay.
While even if the larger industry that enabled a creation like Spider-Man, right, or the Matrix and all that, like won't ever have me, right? So
Oh, okay.
that is like the equivalent of, so it's like the equivalent of my genre or superhero film that I wanted to create, right? And that but through a different aesthetic, through like this perspective of what I've grown up through, right? Or I've developed
Mm.
through, which is a have-not lo-fi outsider angle. And so what
Hmm.
happens when you want to participate in the industry, in this like kind of abstract industry, like
Hmm.
film, while coming from an angle that does not where you don't fit into that world, right? So what is a world that I can speak through? It is a world that is like parallel to lo-fi art, but lo-fi music
Yeah.
and the kind of
But
things that are accessible to me.
um, I guess because if I can be honest, like I'm not really a fan of superhero films, and I loved your movie. So it's funny to me that
Good.
what?
That's good. Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, it's good,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
it seems like an interesting paradox, maybe of that, like you're striving to be accepted by a world that you don't think will ever accept you, but instead you're by doing that you're making something that is accepted by the complete opposite of that world, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, to correct myself, is I don't want to be accepted by that world that doesn't accept me. I want to end up creating a world or being part of the creation of a world and a culture or subculture that feels similar to me, or that we could mutually accept each other. Because here's the
Okay.
thing, at the end of the day, like I'm never gonna expect a Hollywood suit to watch my film, and that's not my goal, right? I would rather meet all of these beautiful people in these art communities and these alternative scenes who relate, right? And they may not all have the same perspective or approach. I certainly am, even within that, the people I've met, I am, I think, an anomaly because of the kind of approach I'm taking, right? It almost sounds contradictory or like a betrayal to like the people who I'm making friendships with, that it might sound like I it's like I want to be your friend, but I don't, but I also like don't I think like I'm above you by like making things that are like bigger, like that's not my point, right? It's
Yeah.
rather, it's like it's we can all relate on some, maybe not all of us, but we can. It's not like every single one of us who appreciates like more alternative art has
Hmm.
not liked something of of a bigger pop culture kind of scale. And even if there it is a case where a lot of people don't like that like more mainstream stuff, they still relate on the other angle of like the what a film like Open Doom Crescendo looks like, because the Open Doom Crescendo looks like or connects to the kind of stuff that they do like, which is more kind of indie or alternative or lo-fi or just different,
Yeah.
right? It is a quintessentially non-Hollywood, non-mainstream, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's a fact. But the point that I'm coming from is that I'm trying to stick it to like Hollywood by
Yeah.
the power that one would think they have a monopoly on, right? Which is big feeling, big scale, spectacle, all the
Ah,
like
okay.
grand kind of Hollywood epic that
Right.
stuff that you would think is monopolized by budget and money and people in suits. So trying to like so the idea is siphoning that or claiming that and
Hmm.
for ourselves and putting that in a way that one we can relate to as misfits and as people who don't fit into that industry. So, but like can we can still have one that still fits like the way the our ethos and what we like about DIY art, but that
Yeah.
also reaches for something that expand the scale of like what is like what would otherwise have been kind of looked down on us as, oh yeah, the DIY people only make like zines, or they
Right.
only
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
zines are beautiful. Like that's not what I'm saying, right? Like I've like, zines can be just as big. It's the idea is that it's I guess I'm just trying to add to that this
Right.
right. I'm
You're
trying to like add like this is the film equivalent of like the most beautiful zine you've ever read, you know?
or just like a blockbuster. Like you're
Yeah.
trying to make an epic blockbuster with having the most minimal tools, the most
Yeah.
minimal budget available to you. And I think that you kind of looked at like every aspect that you had to work with, be it the editing, the audio, the subtitles.
Yeah.
Every little element you said, I need to make this a blockbuster. I need to
Yeah.
make this a blockbuster. I need to make
Yeah.
this a blockbuster. And by doing that, they all kind of clash in a very exciting way, but it is also very much a clash. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's this really exciting like incoherency at times in the film, but it all connects beautifully because it has, as you say, that grand sweeping sentiment that you get from these big Hollywood films. And I guess that makes me wonder if you meet someone that has only seen mainstream films, has only seen like Marvel films, whatever, and you want them to see your film, like how do you explain it to them in a way that's like I feel like there needs to be a way to kind of give someone a key. Like if you just look at it this way and turn that key, then it will bring you in. It'll be unlike anything you've ever seen before because like you love these films and you love this film, right? Like what you've created. So like how would you say to your old past self before making Open Doom Crescendo, what is Open Doom Crescendo? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. And I think that would be it would be in the form of a question, whether you articulate as a question or not, but
Hmm.
you appeal through this question of would what if you can make what if you can make that film or make the film that you
Oh, okay.
it's
Okay.
essentially like do you love these kind of films and do you wish you can make it even if you didn't have those resources, right? It's
Right.
the logical extreme end game of a making a film with your cousins or your friends out on the street, a home video.
Oh
It's like
man.
the maximalist home video, right? Because when you make
Yeah.
home videos, you know you're not like making like high art, right?
Right.
You know that probably no one's gonna watch it, but that high, that life affirming
Yeah.
feeling of participating in that art form, right? And it's something that is so validating for you and the people who you make it with, and maybe like your friends and family members who watch it, right? And
Hmm.
it's just it exists in a magical world that is, it's like the reverse of the obnoxious like film school where it's, I'm gonna make a breakup movie and it's like all my classmates are gonna think it's so cool, you know? All right, but and so it's
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
evil version of that, right? But like, but
Right.
so the pure version of that is as kids when you make those home videos, and there's a reason why those kind of home videos and even like the early era YouTube videos are some of the most entertaining stuff you may ever see, right? Because
Hmm.
there's such a like in a non like evil sense of the word like it's like there's such a pure, just truthful, earnest sincerity to that creation.
Yeah.
And so that is an example of what we've tried to tap into in that ethos of just it's just the maximalist version of that, right? It's like the
Right.
like, don't you wish you could make like a genre epic, a blockbuster, and if it's yes, without like any strings attached, of like you have to sell your soul, like, or you have to
Right,
like the dad has
right.
to be like drinking buddies with like James Cameron, it's like
Right, right.
if there is no loophole, right, to the yes, I wish I could, then it's
Yeah.
like this is it. And so that's the idea.
Yeah.
And actually, well, I don't know if we touched on this aspect, but the aspect I want to touch on about the worry that it was of Open Doom being perceived as another like extremely long film in like a trend, what seems like a trend lately of really long films, in particularly in Hollywood, and that it almost
Hmm.
has become a kind of just like a crutch where people or filmmakers think that long length films immediately equate kind of sprawling, epic kind of reward, and that
Yeah.
justify the length, right? But then they actually forget to make the film good or entertaining or like kind of,
Right,
yeah.
right.
And so the what Open Doom tries to do that sets it apart is that it tries to not suck, but for one part, but it also
Yeah.
tries to actually never take people for granted, even if the story slows down. It's always packing just like nonstop kind of I want to say almost in like a joking way, like nonstop quality, but like nonstop kind of actually story and
Yeah.
nonstop kind of things happening and narrative like sequencing, but also that by the design of it being super lo-fi, no-fi, and DIY, the idea that you can do something of an entertaining grand scale, but it through the foundation of a no-fi, lo-fi DIY setting, in turn justifies or in turn creates a rewarding experience with its length. Is in that kind of, I guess, meta sense, that the fact that you're watching a 3 hour blockbuster epic, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
doesn't suck, hopefully, makes
Yeah.
it in of itself an experience that is rewarding and unique, and that sets it apart from the trend of films that are 3.5 hours long or whatever, that have no intermission, that like don't respect the human body and the fact that people have
Yeah.
to urinate, right? It's like it is a something I hope that makes it stand apart.
Yeah. Uh yeah, I think in terms of like the 3 hour length of it, um, what is different about it versus, the more like mainstream superhero films that are now getting to these bloated lengths is that because it's lo-fi, as much as it's always throwing something stimulating at you, there is something slightly uncomfortable about it. And I think that when people see something really big budget and slick, that in many ways it makes them feel very comfortable. And so they can sit in a theater for a long time, but in a lot of ways they kind of turn their brain off. Whereas I think with your film, you're really not allowed to turn your brain off. There's so many tonal changes, there's so many different approaches to dialogue. The narrative is constantly changing. There's so many characters. So it's even though it's 3 hours long and continuously entertaining, as you're saying, but a part of that is because it's designed to like almost kind of provoke you. It's like not provocative in like an offensive way or anything, but provocative in a sense of like literally just like poking at you, like think about this, think about that, think about this.
Yeah, it's almost maybe challenging your perception of
Hmm.
your attention span or your expectation of what a film of this kind of design should be, right? In terms of its length or its tonal change or
Yeah.
what you would almost have a prejudice towards it about, right? There's a point, so because I sweat through the first like 20 minutes of each screening because I'm just
Yeah.
20 minutes to an hour because I'm going because I know like that's the hard hour for me. That like
Okay.
there's it's because there are very deliberate choices. It's almost like a self-sabotage thing where yeah, you know that don't of if people aren't immediately just full on kind of stimulated, entertained in
Mm,
for like a sustained amount of time in a film of this kind of packaging, right?
yeah.
Then you run a risk of losing people's benefit of the doubt, right? Because
Yeah.
because a film of that looks super slick can maybe get away with like a long kind of slow burn opening, right? But
Mm,
it's like if you need to, it's like needing to give like a little kid candy to like bribe the kid, right? To
okay.
get through a doctor's appointment, right? Or like
Yeah.
the waiting line toward before a roller coaster. And so you're almost expected to cater to a certain kind of stimulation. And so I in part almost kind of like, yeah, do the self sabotage thing where like you make the first hour as all like almost like preposterously inaccessible to points like
Okay.
by taking chances and taking kind of it has like a really like overly explosive first like minute and a half, but
Yeah.
then it takes its time from there, and then it kind of it earns the build up to these certain like fight scenes or these kind of climaxes within the first couple episodes. But it certainly the plot doesn't really ramp forward until about an hour in, and there's
Yeah.
almost this kind of challenge that I have to put on to myself that like if I really do want to believe in the idea of making a thing that gives itself the attention that a hugely famous filmmaker or band already has that would allow it to make like a record or a film that takes its time or that
Yeah.
is slow for the first maybe like 60-70% of the film or like whatever, right? But that you'll have the undying attention of people because they already you have a street cred, right? And so what if
Mm,
you kind of challenge that notion by making a thing that acted or just like fully assumed the
hmm.
idea that it had people's undying benefit of the doubt, and you
Yeah.
take all those narrative chances, and then you end up making this thing that wants to be definitive and that wants to be everlasting, that didn't wait for people's permission, that didn't wait till you like got to like
Sure.
the fifth album in your discography or like the 11th film in your filmography, right? For people to go, okay, yeah, we will sit through this and we will call it like we will affirm it because we trust you and not the work of art, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like with the like David Lynch, right? Like if he made like the later his works get, the more idiosyncratic or the more just zanily kind of tonally
Yeah.
just almost like self-serving in the way where like nothing can happen for an extended period of time and everyone's just going to be like jizzing, right? Because it's David Lynch, right? So they have like they've
Yeah.
already kind of they come with the pre factor of like they're already ready to cream their pants, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like someone like me, they'll be like, ooh, like it's like they'll be like, who's this fucker who's like, like who's he to expect me to like, bring tissue, right? It's like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, so it's like but then what if you went and had like the self-love or like or just this almost like wholesome contrarian philosophy of doing a thing that um kind of jumped to the like already to the other side of like a narrative where like you can it's a
Yeah.
that exists beyond people's uh prejudice of you, right? You're like
Yeah.
what happens if you make a thing that just is as complete as it can be and that has no regrets and then whatever happens, right? Maybe it won't work, maybe like people will just forever like have like come in and never give it the chance, right? But then maybe, just maybe, there will be people who see the intent and see
Hmm.
what it's going for, and then you find those people who are like have been maybe waiting or wanting to seek out the kind of works that
Yeah.
speak their own ambition or wish of really kind of pouring themselves out onto. And
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
been the
Well,
really gratifying
you,
thing.
you brought up David Lynch, and it did make me think that there is sort of like a quality that reminded me of The Return. Did you watch The Return at all?
Twin Peaks?
Yeah, the like third season, because
Yeah.
there is a point in your film. I don't want to spoil it. I will just say it's like around the 2 hour mark where it feels like the film kind of gets really frustrating in a way. Like, what's going on? Like, is it over? And then it sort of dips and takes you through this journey and brings you back up. And to me, it reminded me, I mean, this is a pretty grand compliment here, but it reminded me of, was it episode 7 of The Return? When you're just getting through this, like, what is this show? And then you get to episode 7, it's just like so beautiful and amazing. Like, wow. Do you remember that? Do you know what I'm talking about? That like
I
epic
I
episode?
I infamously like like this is I hope I don't lose you, but like I infamously yeah, I don't I infamously did not like the third season, and I maybe I was just like going through things and I just like yeah, I know this is like the part where the interview just like crashes and burns.
No, no,
uh,
no, no.
but I really that really touches me what you're saying, because I can pinpoint I think like around like what you're saying, because there is a point in like the
Well,
uh
it starts okay.
I think it's
My
when it comes back into his body that I'm
right. But it's
like
it's because like watching it, I thought, wait, is this like a blooper reel? Like what's going
yes,
on?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it
yeah.
it 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 kind of goes through all these different layers. And I was at first like, I think I understand what's going on. And then I was so confused. And then it started bringing you back in, and it just felt like there was a crescendo, you know?
Yeah.
And I started understanding kind of what you were doing structurally with the film, you know? And I think the last hour, it kind of made the last hour like the best part of the film, you know? Um, but yeah, you didn't like.
Yeah.
See, this
Yeah.
is really funny. I honestly, going into this interview, I was expecting you to like drop some obscure references and some films that really inspired you, and you're just like, nah, man. Like, I like superhero movies, and I just wanted to make one, and I didn't have any money. You
Yeah,
know, I'm
yeah,
like, what? Like,
yeah. It's like
that's not at all what came out.
yeah, that, like I said, when I was listening to your first episode, like earlier
Yeah.
today, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna hate me. Like I'm gonna.
No, 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 no. Definitely not hate.
Yeah.
Definitely
No,
not
but
hate.
yeah, no, but I really appreciate that. Like, it really means a lot. And Like, yeah, it's like I came instead just ready to say like people don't appreciate Insidious too. People don't appreciate like Daredevil, the director's cut with Coolio restored. You know, like people don't.
The what?
The Daredevil, my second favorite superhero film after Spider-Man 2002 is the Daredevil,
Okay.
2003, but the director's cut, which
Okay.
is like one of the greatest genre films like I've ever seen, and just what like I unsarcastically love that film, and no one gives it any credit. I think some people
Okay.
do like cinephiles or kind of comic book buffs, well, comic book movie buffs. Like some of them have seen it and appreciate it, but it's like one of like the first, if not the first, great director's cut
Okay.
in
Yeah.
at least mainstream cinema, and
Yeah.
so yeah,
You
it's like the
know,
closest thing you ever see to like a graphic novel,
okay.
like
My favorite superhero film, because I don't really watch them that much, but The Dark Knight felt to me like, oh, we don't need to make them anymore. Like someone perfected it, you know? But
yeah.
I have such specific tastes, so
I didn't
I could
realize
you
that.
hated it. You hated it, right? Yes. No,
Ah!
this no, you don't understand, Terry. Like this is what I want an interview to be because it's unpredictable, you know? Like so often I seek out independent filmmakers making weird ass shit and it can
Mhm.
be an echo chamber,
Yeah,
where it's like,
yeah,
oh, we're into the same bands, we watch the same movies, we are into the same stuff. And here I have you and we are like our tastes are not aligning, but it's making me even more fascinated by your output. Like, I'm just like, what is he gonna make next? I could never predict it.
that means a lot, man. Like for me, it's out of the that Nolan trilogy, it's Dark Knight Rises. Like I will die on that hill.
Really? Okay.
Because here's
Huh.
the thing, because Dark Knight is like so busy being like gritty and realistic, and maybe it's also my
Yeah.
perception of people's love of it, right? Like
Okay.
it's like it's so dark and realistic, right? But it's like I always go, look, there's a scene where like a grown ass middle-aged man dressed up in the bat suit is like beating up an evil clown, and people like call that like super gritty and like realistic, right?
Yeah.
When yet they question it as like, how does like Bruce Wayne get back from like to Gotham from India in like an hour? And I'm like, fuck you. He's fucking
Right.
man, you know? And just this idea of like just the people have their priorities like all wrong in terms of like what is expected out of like a modern Batman film, right?
Okay.
It's what I love about Dark Knight Rises is that it's so unconcerned with like gritty realism, right? And
Okay.
is more concerned with being a grand operatic narrative, right? And really like
Mm.
a redemption story and the fact that because Bruce Wayne is like Dark Knight made me like miss like Bruce Wayne because he's like basically like a secondary character in his own franchise by Dark Knight, right? Like he's
Yeah,
fighting
that's
for
fair.
screen time. Like he's fighting for screen time in his own movie. And
Yeah.
Batman actually has like way too much screen time, which is a fascinating thing because one like
Mm.
a major problem in a lot of superhero films is like there's too little of the superhero. So
Mm.
it's like, or they don't use the superhero properly. But Dark Knight is a weird example where there's like so much Batman that by the end of it, you're like desensitized by the iconography. And then Dark Knight Rises has like so little Batman for like most of the film because it's about how Bruce Wayne is like past his prime and he can't be Batman anymore. But he ends up pushing the people in his life away, like in this like need to kind of like get back this part of his life, like this kind of a aspect of his life that is just too far gone, right? Like as like a cripple now, and he can't. He's not the same Batman, or he can't be like the Batman that he
Mm.
he was 8 years ago, right? And there's so many themes about time lost and all that, and it's just like really really emotional. And then, but after he goes through like a spiritual kind of redemption arc, like he finally comes back as like he finally returns as Batman, and when he does, it's like super huge, right? And he's in the daytime. He's in like the daytime, and it's snowing, like it's like some kind of like Renaissance painting. It doesn't make sense because the snow is flying upwards, and he's like
Yeah.
back to fight Bane, and it's like super kind of huge and epic. And anyway, it's that's what I appreciate about like this like very in like really
Yeah.
sharp intent. Like there's so much intent in making it about like going from because Batman Begins to Dark Knight is like a way bigger discrepancy than Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises. That's like the hypocrisy of I think a lot of like cinema kind of buffs. Not talking to you about you. I'm talking about in general, right? Where like
I
it's
don't
like
know enough
people,
to really weigh in, to be honest.
well,
Yeah.
like my frustration with a lot of like with film people is that it's like their judgment on properties is like way less kind of merited on like actual constructiveness and way more on like what is perceived as high art or what is perceived
Okay.
as like sophisticated, right? To
Yeah.
the convenience of their discourse rather than like actually being consistent, right? So
Hmm.
there's people who don't see any discrepancy from Batman Begins to Dark Knight will see such a discrepancy from Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises. But The Dark Knight Rises is actually like way more consistent with Batman Begins. Like so if anything, it's two versus one, where two films are more alike than like one film. So Dark Knight is still the outlier of the trilogy
Right.
because it's so preposterously dark and like upsetting and cynical. Like it's like you watch the opening, right?
I
It's
know.
a
I'm so
similar color
sorry.
palette. It's like I see similar characters, but this is like it's like another world. It's just so
It's nihilistic.
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
preposterous nihilistic. And then, but then Dark Knight Rises point is it's still the sequel to Dark Knight. It still like takes directly from there, but it goes back in a circle where like it circles back to
Yeah.
the kind of more theatrical kind of big scale kind of like superhero storytelling of being of triumph and like taking on things that are feel larger than life, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why I appreciate about Dark Knight Rises because it takes it's like combines the first two Batman films of that trilogy,
I
but
can
then
see
still
that. Yeah.
circles back to what is more important, which is it's still a superhero film. It's still playing
Yeah.
this like it's like it shouldn't necessarily like act like it's higher than the thing that it's like pretending to, like that it then functions
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, I would agree. What you were saying earlier about your issue with general cinema buffs and like how they criticize films, kind of always holding everything up to like this sophisticated standard of high art. I kind of have similar issues with people and their criticisms of film, where to me, if you're receiving entertainment that you enjoy, there is value, and I try to look at films from that respect. You know what I mean? And so I think that can also help when you're watching something that's low budget, low fi, no fi, whatever we're talking about here.
Yeah,
If you
I
see
actually
some,
yeah.
sorry, you were going to
All
say.
right, well, to the point, like before we got into Batman about the blooper sequence, right?
Oh
Because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's actually, and it's fine. Like that, I'm sure people have seen it. Anyway, like I feel like this is it's okay to talk about spoilers. Where
Okay.
in like the blooper section, right? Like that is specifically like the like if we were to think of like a bridge that's like about to snap, right?
Yep.
And so the blooper part of that whole thing is the closest that like the bridge is about to snap. There's like a
Yep.
thread left, right? And
Yep.
even I know like even and it's very kind of it was deliberate in the like how long that part lasts. Like it goes just long enough that you feel like the whole thing is gonna like collapse under its own
Yep.
uh like seemingly directionless like blooperness, right? Like it's about to become a parody of itself, right? But then that is exactly when you are supposed to and I really like using this term about bringing it back home. Like that's the
Mm.
point where you
Yeah.
have to show people that you knew where this was going and you knew where you wanted to take them and you knew
Right.
that this what seemed like a directionless low point or whatever is exactly when you are supposed to bring them home and give them that emotional shift towards like what your real intents were, right?
Yeah.
So there is this big like relief that I feel when people get through that section and then see because that right as like the blooper sequence like feels like it's just about to go too far, it brings it all back to this narrative
Yeah.
place where there it's hard to describe, I guess, what.
Terry, I cheered. I
Yeah.
was like watching in my living room and I went, yes. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
such
fuck
a
it.
that was like that moment felt like a ride, like,
Yeah.
whoa, here we
Yeah.
go. And that's the kind of moment that makes me go like, really? Like you're influenced by superhero films? Like that's where you got that idea from? Because to me, that's from something way more experimental, yet you put it, you sculpted it in a way that is really exciting on like a very like visceral, physical level. So I'm like, where did you get that idea?
About like that particular part of
Yeah.
like of the the stream of conscious. Honestly, man, I wish I can just flat out like expose myself and give credit. But the closest thing that I can pinpoint to is the end of Evangelion.
Okay.
But
I haven't seen it.
yeah, it's an anime that's really meta, and it gets to a
Cool.
point where it like goes into the making of the anime, or like it straight up goes into live action at one point.
Oh,
But
wow.
but I have to say that I wrote the film before I saw Evangelion. So I don't know what it is. Like maybe there's an amalgamation of the different kind of things that have led to the Campbell's vegetable soup of what becomes something like the stream of
Yeah.
consciousness sequence. But I really don't know. I think
Mm.
maybe it's a product or a combination of just a lot of different things. Maybe some things that sound almost as simple as kind of game shows, or kind of satirical comedy that allow for fourth wall breaking. And then yeah, like it's hard. It's like I think I'm more again, I'm more moved by music
Right.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
imagery and kind of like photography that is a lot more uh, that touches a lot more directly into the feelings that you have in real life when you kind of, yeah, like look at old photographs, or look at kind of, or see like documentary or news footage that is really affecting. And
Mm.
it equivalent to the feeling you have when you play your favorite music, or the music that makes you the most like emotional, but you're doing things like taking public transit, or you're just by
Hmm.
yourself, or you're writing and playing music. It's those kind of transient or fleeting like experiences that you have with art, or that you can't really explain to people, because otherwise you'd sound like a tool, right? If you're going like, I just had the most like emotional like and even as I say it,
Yeah.
I sound like a cynic, right? Or a cynical hipster, but I'm not trying to. But
Right.
I
Right.
guess
Yeah.
it's trying to capture that like the most personal kind of private feeling that at least I know that I've had, and try to share that in a way that people can tap into, right? Because that's
Yeah.
exactly where the what happens when it goes from the that like black and white, like kind of noisy kind of cinema moment, like it's right after the bloopers, but it's like
Yeah.
when the
Yeah. I
characters
think so.
are on stage, and then there's the Gertrude like kind of fly the kite indoors, right? And
Yeah.
got like Rev and Spike like ranting on stage about cinema. And so like right from there, it the music that comes in, and then the images, and
Hmm.
the that flash by, and that transition into the remainder of the stream of consciousness sequence, that really is like the thesis of that whole sequence. That
Mm.
yeah, it's yeah, I don't know, man, but I,
Yeah. It's a
I
lot. Yeah.
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 But it's a risk that I think I'm very grateful that what was taken, because that was the for a long time, that was the part that I thought like, okay, maybe like this is really just too much. This is really like no one's gonna wanna like no one's gonna like want to get through this part, like
Yeah.
because
Well,
usually,
what
yeah.
helps actually in that moment is knowing that there's another hour to go.
Hmm.
To be honest, like if I thought, oh, the film is only got like 10 more minutes left, because that was what was going through my mind initially, was like, wait, did he send me the wrong file or something? Like what, I mean, that's first
Yeah.
what went through my mind. I was like, well, what's going on? Like, we're watching bloopers now? Like, what is this?
Yeah,
And
no.
then, but that's why I cheered. I was like, you won, you brought it back.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, it's like if for me, it's like I just hope like people watch like the trailer, right? Because if they have seen it or remember what
Yeah.
this trailer, because if they
Oh,
did,
it's
they
in the
know.
trailer?
No, I mean like if they saw the trailer, then they'll know that like the whole final battle hasn't happened yet because
Oh, yeah, yeah.
so many of like the epic kind of like just like iconic shots are like from the final battle. So that's
Yeah.
just because for anyone who's seen the trailer or has looked at the poster and all that, like they should know that the film is nowhere near finishing.
Right.
Because like the final, because there are things like the final form of Spike. Spike with like actually his shirt on and his glasses, like what I call like the superhero final form of Spike,
Mm.
right? Is like has is nowhere to be seen yet. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
all. That's all in the trailer. That's all in like the finale, right? And so
Okay.
there are these things that kind of. So you approach it with that kind of idea that if you went in to watch, for example, a Spider-Man movie with like granted there's like 60 plus years of like comics mythology and history like but yeah
Oh, yeah.
behind it people to go in
Yeah.
knowing that if they were watching like a 3 hour Spider-Man movie and 2 hours in there's still no Spider-Man, then they'll know that Spider-Man's still coming, so they would
Sure,
know that the movie's
sure.
not till then. Or like they're watching maybe like a Matrix film, right? But then they know that sunglasses Neo has not showed up yet, right? And that like they're supposed to like head somewhere, right? And so
Okay, okay.
it follows that kind of
Yeah.
logic.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so the idea is that like well yeah, what is the journey to get to that point? And if you
Mhm.
are presenting a film that you were expecting us like a certain kind of genre iconography, then whatever happens on the way to that will be like you will know that you're going to get to that destination. And so
Mm.
my hope is that when people watch it, like maybe like for the people who didn't see the trailer or like didn't like don't remember the poster or whatever,
Yeah.
they'll just be happily surprised, or they'll be just like
Yeah.
really by the end of it like really like over compensatingly kind of rewarded by just the idea that yeah, like this thing just really got to its like got to the conclusion that the only kind of conclusion that would have made it worth it, right? For a film
Mm.
like this. And then for
This,
the people who did see the trailer
yeah.
and poster, they'll be like, they know this, there's more. They know it's not over.
Yeah. I think this might be one of those instances though where it being kind of an experimental film, and just being honest, it is a very experimental film. I think that people going into it knowing it's an experimental film will kind of assure them more than necessarily remembering something from the trailer or the poster. Because I know, like, I saw the poster, I think I saw the trailer, and I wasn't really going through my mind of like, oh, what images have I not seen yet? It was more like I was just so bombarded with images. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it really comes down to the fact that I think people go into it knowing it's 3 hours long. And at that point, I think it's almost like it's a fun point for someone to go like check watch like
Yeah. Yeah.
what is this,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that that's sort of an intentional part of it because it emphasizes the meta quality of the film,
Yeah.
which goes back to what you're saying of like you want people to watch this and go, imagine you're making this. Imagine this is your like bombastic blockbuster superhero film that you're making with your friends, and that's something that you're trying to tap into.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's
Imagine. Yeah.
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 Oh no, it's just like that's to me like the meta quality, really like where it's coming from there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh yeah, and like imagine this is the last and only thing you'll ever do, right? Like what happens if you have one last chance or like one chance to really say
yeah,
put your whole kind of career, your whole kind of like world, and every
Yeah.
kind of narrative chance you want to take, right? Like if this is your only chance to put the opening
Yeah.
credits, 2 hours and 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's way more, and it's like really effective when it's between an intermission, right? Like,
Mm.
it's pretty, it'd be pretty baffling even for this film
Yeah.
for like the intermission to be over and then the 5 minutes in, it's like it wouldn't be the credits. You would know that like,
Yeah.
you're headed to something more, right?
Yeah.
And it's all there's also the hope that like the narrative will kind of make it apparent that you would there even if you're going like, wait, is this over, right? You would inside be going, no, there has to be
Sure.
more. Otherwise, this is a
Right.
bad movie. It's like
Yeah.
it should
Yeah.
be like this almost like my hope is that when people are questioning, like, what is it over? Is it's that no, 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 like it
No,
can't,
no, no, no.
yeah. And rather than like, oh good, I can get out of here.
Yeah.
And
But
so yeah,
you're saying that that like to you doing this film was like your way of like what if I could only do one last film, one big thing. Like I guess that's my way of segueing into do you have something lined up? Like what's the next project? Because like you're making more films, right? Like we need to see what else is coming.
I hope so. I honestly got nothing left in me. I got no money. I got no collaborators. I got
Okay.
no. I like it really. I got no just substantiated ideas. What I do have is the hope that something might come out of this, which I don't mean for it to sound like a cop out, but I've gotten to
Mm,
a point where I really forfeited everything into this, and real life has now come calling in terms of the like I mean like my dad passed away like a couple Novembers ago, and so now like I'm still
okay.
dealing with like the real life kind of
Yeah.
it's like dealing with that shit and taking care of mom, and now there's a stray cat, and now and then it's like
Right,
there's all
right,
these like
yeah.
real life things of like how am I gonna survive in this fucking economy, like the
Yeah.
dollar sucks, it's like
Yeah.
everything is and then there's like 4 million catastrophes going on in the world,
Yeah.
and I think not to sound like resigned, but I think at this point I'm holding out hope that I'm holding out hope in the people around me who inspire me. For example, Ethan, and
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that he'll write like a 50-year-old character role for me,
50
or
year old?
I'm
50? Okay.
yeah, because I'm like just so much older than him, Like
Oh, okay.
I mean maybe not that much, but I always make that joke. Like I make the joke to
Right.
him that like I'm his like older, unsuccessful
Aw, no.
year.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of I have a lot of hope in the people who have gotten to connect with in the last year plus.
Yeah.
And then as for me, I can only go as forward as like the world will kind of reciprocate. And
Sure.
so
Sure.
I think at this point it's like the ball is on the other side of the court. And so
Yeah.
I if someone wants to actually, like pay me to continue doing this, right, in
Yeah.
this economy, or if someone I don't know what it is, but it's
Sure.
yeah, maybe someone just needs to give me some kind of substantiated sign.
Well,
At least I'm just happy
yeah.
be showing
Yeah.
this.
2 points to make about what you just said. And, sorry to hear about your father passing away and all your woes and everything.
Thanks.
Um, yeah. So the thing is, like, you made a 3 hour experimental film that is really feels very new. It feels very like singular, like something that more people need to see. And so, you bring up the comparison to music. I would look at this like you made a double album. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of just one album or one EP. So I think if you are a band or an artist, you can go on tour for a while with this. I think you really need to just take this film as far as you can with it. Not enough people have seen it. It's still like I only found out about it in the past few months. and it came out end of 2022, it's still such a wild new film. I think you've got a few more years of where you can just take it around and get more people to see it. The other thing too is you said you got this idea in 2015 and it finished in 2022. And I think that's a good sign that like you can really like you're really patient. You know what I mean? And it might take you a few years to get the next one going, but when that one comes, like it's going to be really, really amazing. So don't even worry right now if you're like, I'm taking 5, you know, I got a few minutes to just chill here and just keep pushing this one out. So yeah,
Yeah, that means a lot, Bob. Thanks. That really touched me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
I hope, yeah.
Honestly, your review really did move me. I was very honest about how I felt when at the time when I read your letterbox review, and
Mhm.
it 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 reminded me of how there's a certain kind of supernatural-ish like if I project as like a supernatural belief in things, then
Yeah.
not in like trying to sound like a crazy cultist, but like when it's like
Yeah.
if you
It's like, Terry,
yeah.
this was started really nice and I got
Yeah.
really.
So
I'm joking. I'm
Scientology,
joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm
yeah.
joking.
So have you heard the word of Xenu? Because some
Oh
people,
no.
yeah. No, but I think that there is a certain way that if you see the signs or you see the things that are kind of sent your way and that you receive them in a way that makes sense to you, then
Yeah.
it gives me at least the hope to go, okay, this is not the end, this is not the end of
Totally.
it. Because
Yeah.
like I don't know when's the next time I'm gonna be in New York or when's the next time I'm gonna be in Toronto or like because with all of this is the most traveling I've ever done in like a proportionate amount of time
Yeah.
as the last year and a half. And now that things have winded down and the next kind of big thing, which is outside of my physical participation, is the film going out on Blu-ray. Now that like
Right.
wind
With
it down,
Gold Ninja Video.
yeah, go Ninja
Yeah.
Video.
That's sick.
Yeah. And so now I'm figuring out, yeah, like what is life now, and I feel so far I felt good about just showing up for other people, whether it's in the community work I do or just supporting other like friends and their projects. I
Yeah.
think I really do believe that like the only way for things to go forward, let alone my relevancy, have like a
Yeah.
part in any kind of future culture,
Yeah.
is that we uplift each other and that we
Yeah.
really, yeah, we create our
100%.
own, yeah, we create our own industry, and our own self-congratulating Oscars and our own just way of being and creating and sharing. And I
Yeah.
really, I'm just, I'm exercising, looking forward to whatever may come next.
Yeah. I think you're in the right spot, you know? And I
Yeah.
just think these things take time and yeah, I love the movie and I'm going to spread the word as much as I can and people are going to watch this interview and be like this guy's nuts. I need to see this film.
Yeah.
I'm excited for people that watch this and then watch the movie because like it's actually amazing how we still haven't really set people up for it, you
Yeah.
know?
They only know
Like
that there's a
it's
blooper
so
reel, right?
yeah, like they're gonna be like, what is this?
I
I
don't think
love
we've
it,
actually,
man.
yeah, we have not actually said a word about like the plot, right? Like, I mean, it's fine.
No,
They can read the synopsis, like on,
I had
uh,
this whole thing about angst because like, you know, you dealt with angst in Mango Shake as well, but then you mentioned you hated that film. So
yeah. I
yeah.
feel okay with it now because shout out to Schnoodlebug, who
Hmm.
he has his handle is Schnoodle Video, but if you look up like Schnoodlebug, which I'll link it to, but he does this podcast on alternative kind of DIY art,
Cool.
and Ethan Ang actually has an episode on it on his show. So I did an episode with Justin Declue. So it's like a fusion
Oh yeah,
episode
yeah.
with the Schnoodle bug or Schnoodle video show. I keep forgetting what it's called, but it's or like which name it goes under. But
Sure.
in that I talk about Mango Shake and I make my peace with it. So shout out to him that he with his podcast he provided a platform for me to like fit my piece in like one piece of art into through
Yeah.
his disc through like his Discord platform. And yeah,
Cool. I'll
but
check
if
that out.
ever, yeah, if ever people like are curious about Mango Shake, and just for the record, like as much as I openly like despise it, I very much like love just talking to anyone about my work because it really means the world, and
Yeah,
I understand, and I've fully embraced that my art exists outside of my own feelings. And so doing something like being able to talk about it with like a DIY artist like Schnoodlebug and on his podcast, that there's always new opportunities and new chances to kind of reevaluate the things you do, and being able
totally.
to support each other and appreciate each other's work, even if like one person doesn't see it their own thing in the same way. And so it's like I was talking to Ethan, like as I got him a Montreal screening because
Right.
no one in Montreal has had like the cojones for some reason to show it. And
Hmm.
Ethan was making a joke about how he really needs to like make his next film so he can stop talking about therapy dogs, because he feels like it's he's past the point, not in like like he's above the film, but it's now like lives in the
Sure.
past that is
Yeah.
way uh like he's way past in terms of past it in a as far as a developing artist
Yeah.
goes. And but I mean, people still really like love it,
Oh,
and
it's
and
great.
like
Yeah.
profoundly moved by it. And it's until he makes the next thing, like, I think there's just as much power in people, yeah, discovering him through that. By the
Totally.
way, but on a fun aside, have you seen the epilogue to,
No,
you
I
know?
don't. I rented Therapy Dogs off YouTube, I think. So that's all I've
Oh,
seen. Yeah, I need to watch that.
I'll
How do
get
you
that.
watch it? Oh,
I'll get that too. Yeah, yeah. I'll talk to Ethan and yeah, let him know. But
cool.
yeah, you should definitely see the epilogue, because
Yeah.
I'm the only one who has screened his film and the epilogue together.
Oh, sweet.
It's an epilogue he filmed 3 years after
Oh,
the
wow.
the
Okay.
main of Therapy Dogs, but it's, to me, it's like quintessentially necessary
Sure.
to put the two together. And it's a much more, it provides a much more powerful recontextualized ending
Okay.
to Therapy Dogs. So yeah,
Sweet. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
yeah.
I maybe I can get him on at some
Mhm.
point.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah,
on here. Yeah, yeah. But
definitely.
anyways, yeah, I we should wrap this up. I think we're pushing an hour and a half or something like that.
Hmm.
Are you cool to do the questionnaire then, and then we'll
Yeah,
say our good nights?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So it's just a few questions, rapid fire. You don't have to overthink it, but you might get stalled on some of these. You might not. We'll see.
Okay, cool. Is it
Okay.
like it's like a first thing that comes to mind kind of thing?
You don't really have to.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
take a good chug of this.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh wow. uh, tea or coffee?
See,
Oh, okay. Choose one film for the rest of your life.
Insidious 2.
I have to. I've never seen any of them actually.
I
So
watched them, Insidious and Insidious 2, in the same night.
okay.
A break, but like I took a pee break or whatever. But like absolutely watch the two together. It is one of the greatest 3.5 hour cinematic events
Shit.
you'll ever
Okay.
see. And
Okay.
Insidious 2 is the definition of like artistic intent, even within a studio or an independent studio system. It's
That's
crazy.
a bold compliment there. Yeah. Okay. If you had to be an animal, which would you choose?
Phoenix.
Whoa. Okay. Phoenix is like a type of bird.
Yeah, so my Chinese New Year's animal is the
Hmm.
rooster, which is the
Okay.
same family as the phoenix.
Okay.
And the roosters are fighters, so they're like, it's like the term like cockfight comes from roosters.
Sure.
So and then phoenixes also rise from the ashes. So I really
Right. That's
lots
kind
of,
of how I knew of it. Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
I really connect to that. And also so like the rooster being a fighter and belligerent, and the phoenix being the rising. So it's like there's a lot of like kind of perseverance within that animal family. So
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. What happens when we die?
To quote Keanu Reeves, that the ones who love us will miss us.
I like that. That's good. Okay. And last question, song title that best describes your life.
The Big Gloom.
Big Gloom?
The Big Gloom, yeah, by Have a Nice Life. Yeah, the first 20 minutes of Death Consciousness, which is the first album from Have a Nice Life. Once you get to that third track in those like first 21 minutes, The Big Gloom is my favorite song of all time.
Okay. Have a Nice Life. I feel like I've heard the name, but I'm not too familiar. You said they're like a metal band?
Yeah, it's a metal. It's a lo-fi metal band from Connecticut, and
Okay.
they so wait. So a reason why I'm so inspired by them is that they're like two guys from nowhere, and then they just kind of made the most epic 85-minute double album Odyssey, and
Oh, whoa, that's a
put
cool
it out.
cover.
Yeah, they put it out on the internet, and then like no one wanted it, no one knew who they were, and then it percolated for like the next 8 years, and it came at the dawn of message boards. So when message boards actually had positive potential and became so before QAnon and all that.
Yeah.
And so this like the album was passed around and around and around, and then they are now argued as like one of like the greatest indie bands of like the music.
Wow.
And so yeah, have a nice. So that's
Sweet.
kind of where it started. So yeah, if you ever get a chance, you should check it out. It's like a
I
really
will.
long, sprawling album, but the first 21 minutes just in of itself will give you like a good roundup of like the feeling of the whole
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, big
That
bloom
sounds
for sure.
awesome, man. Yeah, I was just looking them up on Spotify, and they always have like the Have a Nice Life radio, like the radio or whatever that they put for the artist, and looking
Oh
through
yeah,
like similar artists and stuff, and it was like so many good bands I really like. So yeah,
nice.
sweet, sweet. Okay, well, that's all the questions, and so yeah, I will I'll let you go, and I'll keep you posted on when this episode's edited and like when I'll be putting it up and everything. So yeah, but it's great chatting
Cool.
with you.
Yeah, it was absolutely it was a great time. Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, I've done this a bunch of times, like a handful of times, but this one was really uh very very uh like very comforting, very
No, that's
comforting,
good. That's
but like
good.
exciting. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I hope positive. That's usually
yeah,
what I
very,
try to emanate with. So yeah.
yeah. That means a lot, man. I really
Cool.
appreciate it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm gonna pick up the movie. I kind of want to pick up Mango Shake. I really want to check that out.
Oh, yeah, it's in stock again on Go Ninja. Yeah, goninjavideo.com. So
Okay.
spelled as it sounds.
Okay. Sweet, man. Okay. Have a good night, buddy.
Oh, you too.
Okay. See ya.
See ya.